Zanetti of the New Mexico National Guard. Many of us have known Greg for years. We've known him as a citizen soldier serving with our fellow New Mexicans. We've also known him as a Valley Viking, a trusted financial advisor, a prominent community leader, and as a TV and radio personality. General Zanetti just returned from a one-year deployment at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And there he saw firsthand how important it is that we ever maintain our vigilance in the defense of freedom and liberty. Please help me welcome Greg Zanetti.
Well, it is an honor to be with you today, assembled here in this 400-year-old plaza as the modern sons and daughters of liberty. We Americans, we're a good people. At our very core, we believe in and we trust in the goodness of others. And that goodwill has extended to our elected leaders. Still, we've watched in dismay as our freedoms have slowly but inextricably been eroded away. Now, I know many of you. Prior to this day and hour, you stood your posts as protectors of your families, as guardians of our community, our state, and our nation. Within each of your circles of influence, you warned against the oppressive growth of government, taxes, and regulation. You cautioned about the moral dangers embedded in the entitlement philosophy. And you urged others to reject the crushing encumbrance of our exploding debt and the concomitant burden it will be to our children and our grandchildren. And you saw the ancient and evil chains of bondage being forged under the guise of good intentions. And you rejected the siren's call of prosperity without work, gain without sacrifice, and dignity without discipline. You heard the drumbeat of those who shouted you down when you ventured too close to the truth, and when you were not deterred in your convictions. You were urged to look the other way, as you're accused of seeing phantoms where they said there are none. But you knew better. You knew the best lies are those lies that are clothed in a thin veil of truth. And how many times did we hear this mantra? We've not come from your freedoms for your freedoms and liberties. Have we not still granted you your freedom of speech, your freedom of assembly, your freedom of religion, and your freedom of protest? And you heard these feeble assurances. And those who were less vigilant accepted these shallow and disingenuous definitions of freedom as sufficient. But you were not deceived. You saw the danger. You intuitively knew that those in power, they have no right or authority to grant or remit rights to us. Our rights and freedoms emanate from a much greater source. And understanding that source of freedom is why free men and free women have always taken up their positions when the threat from those who wish to amass power has become too great. Our founding fathers knew the foundational importance of freedom, not only freedom to enjoy certain privileges, but also the freedom from oppression. In light of our recent history, we have watched our economy weaken and our status in the world decline. And many Americans, unfortunately, many Americans have grown fearful. But today, we stand here unafraid and declare that we must stop fear in its tracks, and it is freedom's call that exorcises the demon of fear. And thus today we make the transition. We make the transition from guardians and watchmen, and we make the transition to men and women of action. We can no longer allow our government to be more concerned with protecting itself than protecting its citizens. We can no longer allow government to use the law as a shield for its own defense and as a sword to attack those who question its power. We can no longer allow the government to use the power of the purse to enrich itself at our expense and more egregiously at the expense of our children and again our grandchildren. And we can no longer allow the government to use its power of treaty and negotiation to weaken our sovereignty and to diminish our standing as Americans. If these trends are not reversed, and if we continue down the path of monetary and fiscal irresponsibility, the prophecy of Thomas Jefferson will most certainly come true, and that is our children will wake up homeless on the very continent that our fathers conquered. In short, we will become 21st century Esau's, having traded our birthright for a bowl of stew. Those of you assembled here today, you know it is possible for freedom to be established from the tip of a spear, but so can tyranny. Therefore, it is not the weapon itself that favors liberty over oppression, but rather it is the individual who wields the weapon. The strength of free men and of free women arises from the belief that we are endowed by our Creator with the inalienable right to be free. Beyond this, our strength comes from the knowledge that we are not alone. We know that we can look each other in the eye, as only free men and only free women can, with strength and with purpose, and that we will pursue our cause with courage and with honor and with integrity. Thus today, we confidently fall into formation, knowing we're ready to stand in the gap, shoulder to shoulder, as brothers and sisters of liberty to defend freedom.
You're here.
Para mis amigos que hablan español, hoy estamos unidos y juntos. Somos amigos, vecinos y soldados para la libertad. For my friends who speak Spanish, we stand here united today as friends, neighbors, and soldiers for freedom. We assemble in anticipation of a long fight ahead, but also knowing that given the proper spark, the fires of freedom will spread quickly. History is clear. With proper leadership, conviction, and discipline, it is possible to reverse decades of apathy and neglect. That is the strength of freedom. And know this in your hearts, we will succeed because the thought of failure is unconscionable. And when our work is done, and when our course here on earth has run, and when the moving finger writes to tell the story of this generation's deeds, know in your heart of hearts and know to the depths of your soul that the ghosts of free men past and the souls of free men future will roar the approval that the light of freedom grew brighter on our watch. That is all.
Thank you, General Zanetti. Our next speaker